He was considered a poor student with his highest grade of C+, awarded for good physical hygiene. He was constantly in trouble with the faculty and spent much of his academic career attempting to work off the demerits he had earned. During the Prohibition era of the 1920s and 1930s, he worked as a bootlegger for himself as well as a colleague. After a short time and several run-ins with the local Memphis police, he decided to leave town and head west. To protect his family and to escape law enforcement officers, he changed his name and continued to commit smaller crimes and bootlegging. He was arrested in Oklahoma in 1928 for smuggling liquor onto a Native American reservation and sentenced to 3 years. He was reportedly a model inmate and was released early. Shortly thereafter, he married Kathryn Thorne, an experienced criminal who purchased his first machine gun and insisted, despite his lack of interest in weapons, that he perform target practice in the countryside. She also went to great lengths to familiarize his name within underground crime circles. According to Persons in Hiding, a 1938 book by FBI Director John Edgar Hoover, he worked with Kathryn and Eddie Dahl in the kidnapping of a wealthy manufacturer in South Bend, Indiana, for a $50,000 ransom. Similar claims were made in several 1937 American Magazine articles co-authored by Hoover. While Hoover chose not to name the victim in either his book or magazine articles, local newspaper stories about Hoover's claims assumed that he was referring to the January 26, 1932, abduction of Howard Arthur Wolverton. Wolverton was released unharmed after less than 24 hours in captivity, and the crime was essentially forgotten in the following decades. But his kidnapping was reported widely at the time and proved to be historic, characterized by contemporary reporting as a turning point in America's growing kidnapping scourge. The New York Daily News called his abduction spectacular, asserted that for brazen audacity has no parallel, and suggested that such crimes represent a challenge to organized society. Wolverton's kidnapping revived consideration of the Lindbergh Law in Congress and spawned several nationally distributed newspaper projects that sought to take the full measure of the growing crime wave, and which described kidnapping as a threat to every American. Completion of these projects were ready for publication within days of the March 1, 1932, kidnapping of Charles Lindbergh Jr., meaning that the infant's abduction was presented not as a single crime but as part of a growing national problem. His last criminal activity was another history-making abduction, the July 1933 kidnapping of wealthy Oklahoma City resident Charles Urschel and his friend Walter Jarrett, which would prove to be his undoing. He demanded a ransom of $200,000, $4.8 million today, and held Urschel at the farm of Kathryn's mother and stepfather. Urschel, having been blindfolded, made note of evidence of his experience, including remembering background sounds, counting footsteps, and leaving fingerprints on surfaces in reach. This proved invaluable for the FBI in its investigation, as agents concluded that Urschel had been held in Texas, based on sounds that Urschel remembered hearing while he was being held hostage. An investigation conducted in Memphis disclosed that they were living at the residence of Titchener. Special agents were immediately dispatched to Memphis, where, in the early morning hours of September 26, 1933, a raid was conducted. He and Kathryn were taken into custody by FBI agents and Memphis police officer. The arrest was overshadowed by the escape of 10 inmates, including all of the members of the future Dillinger gang. The trial was held in Oklahoma City with Judge Edgar Vaught presiding. On October 12, 1933, he and Kathryn were convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment. He spent his remaining 21 years in prison. During his time at Alcatraz, he got the nickname Pop Gun Kelly. According to fellow inmate Dale Stamphill, the nickname originated because he told big fish stories. The cons called him Pop Gun Kelly after cork guns that were popular with kids. The guys didn't take him seriously. This may have stemmed from the fact that, in addition to his exaggerated tall tales, Kelly was a model prisoner and did not act like the brutal gangster his wife, the media, and FBI had made him out to be. He spent 17 years on Alcatraz, working in the prison industries, continuing to boast and exaggerate his past escapades to other inmates, and was quietly transferred back to Leavenworth in 1951. He died of a heart attack at Leavenworth on July 17, 1954, the day before his 54th birthday, and was buried at Texas Cemetery in Kathryn's stepfather's family plot. George Kelly Barnes, better known by his nickname Machine Gun Kelly, was an American gangster from Memphis, Tennessee, active during the Prohibition era. His nickname came from his favorite weapon, a Thompson submachine gun. Machine Gun Kelly and his crimes are portrayed in films such as Machine Gun Kelly, The FBI Story, and Melvin Purvis, G-Man.